Well, I'm so excited to have a special guest today, Jenny Raiche. And oh gosh, Jenny and I go way back. And Jenny just finished orchestrating Miss Dance Team Minnesota. And now this was the 22nd year, correct?
This was it was either 22 or 23. I can't remember. We started the first one in 2002 was our first organized event.
Right.
And I know 2 years before that, you had brought someone out to the National Miss Dance
Yep.
Team USA competition. And then the year after you did, I brought my sister out there to compete in it to learn a little bit
Right.
more. And
Yeah, it's
then
funny because back then, Kate Crawford, bless her, soul, she was kind of my mentor, and she had the big Miss Dance Team USA going on, and she would call me every year and go, "Will you start a Miss Dance Team Minnesota?" So finally, one year, I remember actually getting Amber Rose Sutton
Yep.
from Totino Grace. Her name was given to me by Kristen Gagnon, and she just on a whim, we went out there and
Yeah.
she competed, but we weren't very prepared. And then the next year you brought Emily. And then I think the next year through Just for Kicks, we started the first one. And I think
Yes.
we did it a
So
few years
yes.
before I turned it over to you, but boy, has it grown. So that it has certainly grown. Was this the biggest one to date?
To date, this was definitely the biggest competition we had. So the first year we had that organized competition in 2002, we had around 40 kids compete.
Pretty.
And
Wow.
then this past weekend, we had just under 270 kids. And I think they represent 57 different high schools this weekend.
Wow, wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. So and I know from the events that I run, I'm sure you're experiencing growing pains going, okay, now what? Because it's only going to get bigger, right?
Well, I mean, that is always the hope. And as it has continued to grow and evolve and kind of become this really, special weekend to kind of kick off, the winter dance team season for teams and for dancers and things like that. I think my goal and my mission is always to find, what is a way to keep it special, to keep it intimate, but still allow it to continue to grow because our mission was always just making sure there was an opportunity for kids to represent their schools as individuals, with dance team being such a team focused sport. There was really nothing that our individual or more standout kids could do on an individual level in dance team. So, um, wanting to keep it special, wanting to make sure that every kid is having an awesome experience, but also I never want to limit the opportunity. So if it keeps growing, we'll find ways to keep it great and keep it special for kids.
Yeah, you'll almost have to start on Friday.
Right.
Maybe move it to MEA weekend so you can have Thursday, Friday. I could see that actually.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to keep seeing how it grows. I mean, we did have a waiting list this year of people, trying to get in. We capped it off on what we felt like we could manage within the time frame we had, and then off of that waiting list, we always make sure we get seniors who,
Right.
especially there's a lot of seniors who they don't do it every single year, but their senior year they want to do something new and special to represent their team. So I always make sure every senior who wants to get in gets in, but we definitely still had more people on the waiting list this year that didn't get to compete. So we're going to keep going back to the book, the drawing board and figuring out how we can make this work for everyone.
Right. I know, it's growing pains. You just we go through that with Just for Kicks. It's like,
Of course.
okay, now we have to add another one. Okay, now we have to do this and that. So, well, it sure was well run and a great event. I especially loved your announcer. It was why can't I say his name?
Yes, Nate Poole.
Nate Poole. Yeah, he was great. I thought he was
He
great.
he is fantastic, and I have known Nate for a long time. He grew up dancing at Larkin Dance Studio, where I worked for a long time, and he danced with my younger cousin Rachel, who you know. And then Nate was an MC for Hall of Fame dance competitions and nationals for a very long time, and now he's also on the circuit with Monsters of Dance, the hip hop
Oh,
convention.
wow.
And he just loves dance and he's just a person who is inspired by everything around him. And so he is a person who I say, Nate, are you available this weekend? And then
Mhm.
I just let him run with it and
He
how
just,
he can.
yeah, yeah, he was great. Oh,
I don't have to do anything. So I'm very, very blessed to have him as a part of the group.
well, that's cool. So one thing I was going to ask is, now have you started any other states besides Minnesota now?
Right. So personally, I am not the director of any of the other states, but in the last year, we have had three other states start their, state competition for Miss Dance Team um, that will lead into the nationals, and I have guided and mentored those three states to get them going. So last year they had the first Miss Dance Team Iowa, which is run by Jenny Eustace, and then this year Kelly Snell started the first Miss Dance Team Colorado, and then also this past weekend the first Miss Dance Team Wisconsin
Oh,
was
you're
held.
kidding.
So
Yay.
I know Utah already had their event. Idaho already had their event. Those are longstanding events that have been going on for
Yes.
quite a while. But I know, so there have already been 8 state event qualifying events that have happened already this fall. And it's just exciting to see those continue to grow.
Right. I just wish every state would get on board.
I
Because when
know.
you go to nationals, I know I went out there for years, even before I brought my team out there way back in the 80s, and it would be
Yeah.
like Texas, California, Idaho, and Minnesota. It was like we need
Yeah.
more states. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited for something to be a true national. And I think one of the great things out there is they donate all the money. It's nonprofit. The
Yes.
and that's kind of cool. That's really neat. I love that. And
Yeah.
there's
And
such
to my understanding, it is still the only national dance team competition that is run as a nonprofit organization. So
yep.
many of the, of the events are for profit. So this is something that is truly giving every dime back to the kids. And so it's something I really want to continue to support and bring our kids back there. And yeah, the national event, unfortunately has gotten a little bit smaller. But I
Yeah.
feel we're turning around and it's on an upswing. They have a new director. His name is Activate Arroyo,
Yeah.
and he really put in the work the past couple of years to come out to the different states. Not only our solo competitions, but I think he attended like 8 different state
It was, yeah,
competitions
I
too.
had him on a podcast too, and I thought he's a
Yeah.
getter. I love his name, Activate. I'm like,
Yes.
well, yeah,
Yeah, so I feel like with his energy, but also wanting to maintain, the base of what Kay started, Brenda continued. I think things are moving in a great direction, and I'm excited to continue to support the Nationals in that way too.
what goes into running this whole thing? I mean, what do you think is one of the hardest things about it?
Yeah, well, I found a magical thing called random.org this year where the biggest thing was, trying to create the schedule and the order of performance and just to fit everything in. And I mean, for running thousands and thousands of events to just make sure the timing of everything is such that every kid gets there in time to feel prepared and then go out on the floor, have their moment. But then make sure it's a day that's really fun and enjoyable for all involved judges, that they're not there, they're not judging too long where, you start to glaze over a little bit or the
Right.
audience is still
Yeah.
engaged the whole time. So I think just finding that really great balance of what that schedule looks like, but then also, like I said, we had almost 70 kids in our 11th grade division alone this year. And so
Incredible. Yeah.
I copied all 70 entries into random.org and it created an order of competition for
You're
you.
kidding. I'm gonna have to look for that.
Right, which I always did like the draw out of a hat and all of the things. And I was like, there has got to be with technology today, there's got to be a better way. And so if with the list that created for me and the schedule that created for me, as long as there weren't two kids from the same school competing back to back, I let it go that way. And that saved me hours in the planning
Oh, I
this
bet. I
year.
bet.
But so
So
that was great.
judges, how does someone become a judge at this? Do you go seek them out, obviously, or do some people apply? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I feel I was so excited about our judges panel. We had 13 different judges, and I brought in a lot of judges from out of state this year and brought in several new judges who had never who had judged other events, but never judged our event before, especially because there's kids who are doing this year after year. I don't want the same people who might have some preconceived notions
Oh,
coming
yeah.
in, but I also want some people who have been a part of our organization and really understand how it works to be there. So we had an awesome mix of judges this year. And I really try and find people who are active in the industry, whether that's as teachers, choreographers, studio owners, coaches from out of state, but then a lot of college coaches too, because
Yeah.
our coaches in and around Minnesota are really utilizing this competition as a place to see who's up and coming, in the dance team scene in Minnesota, because it is important to the coaches around, the college coaches around here, to really keep that awesome talent here for our college program. So I think this year we had an awesome mix of industry professionals who I have met through, just different circuits, college coaches, and then former college dancers or Team Minnesota dancers who are not directly affiliated with a current team right now. And that's a
Right.
hard thing to
That's
do
hard.
because
Yeah, that's
this
hard to find.
is very small, but we had judges this year from California, Colorado, New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
She's the Minnesota Vikings cheerleaders director now, but she's, from Louisiana, lived in Dallas, was in New York, now is in Minnesota. So we really tried to get people who had just a different background, but are still very active in the dance industry right now.
Today's episode is sponsored by Just for Kicks Catalog. We are a one-stop shop for everything you need for coaching dance and running your studio, from costumes to poms to leotards to shoes. We have in-stock items ready to ship with great customer service. So check us out online at justforkicks.com. One thing I was going to just talk about is, do you ever want to get to the point? Well, we just developed a judging app that
Mhm.
that we're in the process of it. We've started it, and then we kind of put it on the back burner because we would get to a school, and if the Wi-Fi wasn't connecting right, it was just more of a pain. But we think we're to a point where we're having one, and boy, I think that's going to be a neat thing. And I could share it
Yeah.
with you eventually. But I think Iowa State is using one this year for the first time that they developed at Iowa State Dance and Drill. And I think it's
Okay.
kind of neat. They put the scores in, and it just gives it to all the kids. So what do you think trend wise, anything different this year that was trending in terms of styles, or everybody's still doing their own thing, or what do you?
Yeah, well, and one of my favorite parts about this competition, like I said, with dance team being so team focused, is that this really gives that kid who's, way better at, contemporary or something a little more stylized, or kids who have, more acro tricks, or, just different things. Like, they
Mhm.
really get to truly highlight what they are best at. And I feel like for a long time in this competition, everybody was just doing a pretty classic lyrical. And I really think this year, the last couple of years, we've seen kids really, you know, do everything from like a classic jazz to a more stylized jazz to a really intense contemporary to a few more musical theatery. We had a couple like more bluesy,
Yeah.
routines that I really think people are being more dynamic in their choices, their song choices, and then their choreography is matching those song choices. So I really feel like we got a really cool and good variety, and that kids, actually one of the girl who won the interview division, for the 12th graders, she said when she came in and did this competition for the first time as a ninth grader, she thought she had to do a lyrical solo. So she came, she put on the rhinestone costume, she did the lyrical solo. That was not what she was best at. She is definitely more of a mover, and like a more quirky contemporary style is her thing. So year two, she came back, she choreographed her own solo. She did her thing. And then she's like, I jumped in the rankings because I did what I was best at, not what I thought this competition should be about. And so I think I would just, really encourage kids is that we continue going in this, do what highlights you best. Don't try and do what the winner from the year before did, because that's not you. And just really being authentic to what you're great at is what's going to make you great in this competition.
That's so true. And I mean, I think it's interesting, like even in the dance team world and studio
Mhm.
world, like studio, I feel like you have a little more freedom to do. what you want, where I feel like, at least in Minnesota, it's like you feel like you have to get this many sets of
Pegged
Alcipones,
in.
you have
Yeah,
to do this, for jazz I'm talking, and kick too. I mean, it's like there's these not compulsory moves, but it almost feels like it,
a little
like
bit. Yeah.
you have to show that you can do this. And sometimes I wish it was a little freer, but then I can see the other side, like the judges might want to know, well, can you do that,
The trend was that we saw a lot more dynamic and a lot more variety in the styles that kids were bringing. And that was fun to
Yeah.
see because, and it definitely made some of them really stand out,
Yeah.
and be memorable. And I mean, that's always something that I get nervous about as the director of this, because I want every kid to leave feeling, really fulfilled and like they had a great experience. And when you have that many kids in a division, I don't
Right.
want anyone to get lost. So, if you are not doing something that's true to who you are, that's going to really allow you to be memorable, then that can definitely happen. And I really feel like kids are doing an awesome job of being authentic to who they are, and that's making them stand out and be memorable.
That's neat. I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there anybody that stood out that you want to speak to a few different kids at all and talk about some of the highlights of the weekend?
Yeah, I think, and for me, I'm the director, which, I plan the whole competition, and then once the first song hits play, I just get to be a spectator and a fan for all these kids, which is my favorite part of it. But we did have, Sullivan Neubauer from Orono was our winner this year, in the 12th grade division. And like I said, hers was a little more of like a bluesy,
Mhm.
quirky jazz that, was super intricate, but then she also found some times to just like stop and make a connection with the audience, and she was memorable, and what she did was really, just a little different than everybody else, and that definitely made her stand out. We had, some dancers who, maybe the technique and the turns and that kind of thing wasn't their thing, so they didn't put it in there. They put in the more intricate movement quality combinations, and they really focused on the last 25 points on the score sheet, which was the performance part of things. So
Mhm.
there was definitely some kids that stood out in that area. Actually, the winner in our middle school division was a kid who stood out to me, and I still remembered after day two. She was a dancer from Maple Grove, and she was just, intense and strong and just laser focused in on captivating the audience the entire time. Her name was Brittany Johnson, and she just blew everyone away. And then very different and dynamic, our winner in the 11th grade division was Izzy Gordon from
Okay.
Prior Lake, and her technique and her extension and the way she utilizes her music, nothing she does is fast and quick and intense, but her control and her balance and her flexibility really made her stood out. So I really feel like the winner in each division brought something completely different to the competition, which was really cool to watch.
That's neat to see. It's neat to see the progression and how much harder it's
Yeah.
gotten and how much better it's gotten. It's just,
Yeah. It's like every year I think, okay, this is better than it's ever been. What are they going to do next? And then they come next year with even cooler and harder and more
yeah,
mesmerizing things.
the level has just gone up and up. And pretty much nobody goes there unless they're good. You know,
Right.
I
For
feel like
sure.
it's to the point where you just have to hats off to everyone for even going, and
Yeah,
entering and doing as well as they did. So,
absolutely.
any last things you want to talk about or share?
No, I mean, we were very excited that WCCO News and Elmo's was there, to cover the event this year, which, my hope each year is that kids are just, getting more exposure, getting more opportunities. But one of the messages that I sent to our seniors last night was, more proud of, watching them shine on the floor, which is what they're there to do. But the funnest part for me is to kind of walk through the lobby and walk through the practice gym and um, walk by the locker rooms in between and just see all these kids from all these different teams who
Yeah.
are, I mean, essentially they're competing against each other that day. And this is a competition, but just to watch, kind of this community that has evolved and developed and has become so supportive of each other, and to just watch
Yeah.
these kids, tell each other good luck and mean it. And then to say, wow, you were incredible and mean it. And then, I heard one kid go up to someone and say, I was so inspired when I watched you dance today. Like
Oh,
it's those behind the scenes things that are created from this event that have, really made it special and really made me inspired to continue to want to make it better and greater for these kids each year and encourage any kid who wants to represent their school to come and do it and be a part of this, because that's what these kids are leaving remembering, at the end of all of it.
that's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
Great way to end it. And your team Minnesota is another unbelievable way for kids to bond, meet kids from other schools, and it's truly an honor. So that's really neat.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Well, Jenny, thank you.
Hey, thanks for
Your
having me.
next event. Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time.